Hi, my name is Liz. I'm going to talk a little bit today about how I do inquiry in my classroom through the use of databases, Google Apps for Education, and a social networking site called Edmodo. So this is just a snapshot of my classroom. My school focuses on collaboration a lot, so my students often work in pairs or groups of 4, but I wanted to think about ways that I could use technology to get them to share their work with the entire class, and ways that they could do research inside and outside of the classroom. I start off my year with water quality. Sometimes I teach 6th grade and I do physical sciences, and in chemistry it applies. I also teach 7th grade life sciences some years, and I do the same thing. I begin with water quality. It's something that the students can really engage with. They have lots of questions about it, whether we're looking at it from just all living things in general, from the human body systems to marine ecosystems, freshwater systems. Tap water, right? We're in New York City. We have some of the best tap water available. It's a really unique compared to the rest of the country, where most of them get it from groundwater. So it's exciting. The students don't necessarily know that much about it. And finally, where we're located. We're surrounded by all these unique bodies of water. We have the Atlantic Ocean. We have the Harlem River, the Hudson River, the East River, the Long Island Sound. And my kids have tons of questions. So I usually start off by asking them, well, what do you want to know about sort of the water around us? Which leads to this. And it seems sort of funny, but it comes up a lot. And the kids really want to know, well, is it safe? What can we catch? Can we eat the types of fish that we catch in the river? And to answer that question, right, in an ideal world, we would do this all the time, right? We would take our kids down to the river. We would do water quality testing. We'd look at specimens. But realistically, I can only do this maybe once or twice a year, with my 4 sections. So I had to really think about ways that we could conduct research on water quality in sort of a realistic way, but to answer all of their questions. And that's where databases came into play in my curriculum. I use a database called MySound. It's a database sponsored through the University of Connecticut, and they have water quality sensors all throughout the Long Island Sound. The students can retrieve water quality data. They can also retrieve weather data and wave data. And the great thing about it is it's real-time data, which the students love, because I'm not just handing them a data set and saying, hey, here's some data. I'm not giving them data from 2 years ago, because they want to know how the river is doing now. They want to know if it's healthy in the moment. And they're really excited to go home, to check in the morning, to check in the evenings. They log on online. They see that it changes, and it's exciting for them. The nice thing about MySound database too is it's user-friendly, for students. The graphics are easy to interpret. It's color-coded. They can, there are only several sensors, so they can really easily sort of find what they're looking for. And the one thing that they recognize right away too is not all databases are created equal. And sometimes there are limitations in the data that we can find. And as they sort of go through and they look at it, one of the things that they notice is, well, there's a lot of data on dissolved oxygen, which sort of leads them to this question, which to us might seem sort of intuitive, and of course fish need oxygen, but a lot of students, they're not really sure, because they know that as humans, we breathe oxygen, but when we go underwater, we can't get oxygen, so do fish really need it? And we have lungs and they have gills, and eventually, even the students who know that fish do need oxygen, they don't necessarily know where it comes from. A lot of them think that they just get the oxygen from the oxygen in a water molecule itself. No, they just pull that oxygen right out. They don't realize that the oxygen is coming from this dissolved oxygen gas that's in the water. And when we start to talk about the oxygen levels, and they understand that, wow, this is really important, and fish need certain oxygen levels to survive, they want to know what things affect it. And when they look at the MySound database, they can see, well, what can I look at? What can I compare? And temperature is a factor that they can look at and see, okay, well, we can investigate this. We can research this. And for a week, they spend time gathering data on temperature and oxygen to sort of see, what the relationship is between these 2 parameters. And once they have their data, though, now what are we going to do with it? How are we going to organize it? How are we going to sort of type up and write up our formal lab reports? How are we going to present that? And I love Google Apps because my students get real-time data with the databases, but I get real-time data to assess them when they're using Google Docs, because I can be, if they share their work with me, I can check it, you know, the whole time that they're doing the report. I can make comments. I can give them feedback. It's an ongoing process. It's not like I'm getting a report at the end and it's like, oh no, shoot, they didn't understand this and they didn't realize how to graph. And I can help them out along the way. I can intervene as they're doing their reports. So this is just a sample from some lab reports. The students use spreadsheet to type in their data, and then they create graphs to determine whether or not there is a relationship. So they use scatter plots to figure out if there's a positive, negative, or if there's no correlation between temperature and dissolved oxygen. The other great thing about Google Docs is I can use different templates for differentiation. With students in my class, I teach students of all levels. So, and a lot of times, you know, if they're getting different handouts, it's really obvious if they're working on something that's different from someone else. But with a Google Doc, they're just working. They open up the computer with their partner. They open up my folders. There's a whole slew of templates. And I can quickly and quietly walk around and say, you do template A, you're working on template B. And they're so engaged in their work, they don't really know what other people are working on. And I can scaffold some of the templates for English language learners, for students who have disabilities, who have writing issues. I can give them sentence starters. I can give them more concrete prompts as they go through the process, versus leaving more open-ended questions and prompts for students who are maybe at a higher level or ready for more. The other nice thing is that the research doesn't end once they collect their data. They're constantly doing research throughout the project as they're writing their reports. So if they're finding images that support or enhance their work, like these students found an image of where their actual water quality sensor was, and they wanted to include that in their report. My students, the expectation is that they find reliable sources to back up all of their scientific findings, and they can easily and seamlessly enter in those references into their reports. The last piece I want to focus on is collaboration and really communication. You know, the whole time they're working, you know, with a partner, they're doing this lab, they're working with one person, and they're communicating, they're collaborating, but I want to take it further. You know, just like scientists in the real world, when they, you know, conduct their research, they put it out there for the community to see and learn from. And I want my students to do that in my classroom. And Edmodo is a social networking site that the students can log on to. They post their work for the class to see, and then the students can actually respond. They can read their work. They can learn from one another's work. And while they're excited and they like getting grades from me and feedback, they love getting feedback from their peers. They're so excited to read each other's work. You know, the students who finish early are like, the one question I always get is, can I read more than one report? Can I post more than one comment, please? And I'm like, of course, yeah, you know, of course you can, absolutely. So this is sort of just a snapshot of what Edmodo looks like. The reports go up, and within a couple of days, you know, the students find that, you know, their friends are reading their reports, and they take it very seriously because they want people to take reading their reports seriously. So students might say, hey, you know, I liked your connections or your conclusions, but oh wait, are you missing your data table? Or, you know, maybe you should really, you know, enhance your results section the next time. Maybe you should do some more analysis, like the mean or the mean absolute deviation. So just to kind of summarize, you know, our kids have questions, and, you know, the questions sort of about our world and the science we're teaching. And databases are a great way that, you know, students can access information and conduct research. Google Apps are terrific in terms of the analysis and how we want to sort of, you know, present their data and type up these formal reports. And finally, Edmodo allows for this peer communication and really sort of setting up the classroom as this scientific community where students can share ideas and learn from one another. Thank you.